All right, everyone, good evening. My name is Ingrid and I am a meditation teacher, a yoga teacher, as well as a holistic therapist working with energy. So today I thought I'd give you a webinar on mindful-based stress reduction. Now, one of the things I find as a therapist is that I'm constantly seeing people who are just stressed. And yes, of course, the work I do, the Reiki, the crystals, the talking therapies, the empowerment work, the life coaching help to some extent. But surely isn't the aim of everything we're doing so that you guys can look after yourself and manage your own stress and come into a place of sustained, fulfilled balance and harmony in your life? And because we live in this crazy world, and especially Dubai, which is constantly full of distractions, it really is a high problem I'm seeing here is stress and anxiety. But of course, it's not just here in Dubai, it's all over the world. And as the job I do, I see it in everyone, even myself who works in wellness. I am susceptible to stress and anxiety too. We're humans, we're emotional beings, and life is a roller coaster. So with all my studies and practices and trainings in meditation, what I found is that one modality, yes, is fantastic, but when you mix a lot of modalities together, it actually can have a much greater effect, much more positive outcomes, and really help you get that stress-free life that we're all craving. So this evening's webinar is all about a very systematic approach called mindful-based stress reduction. Now, I'm very much open to questions, so please feel free to ask at any time. You don't need to raise your hands in the little icon thing. You can just unmute yourself and please ask. Any questions usually also help other participants when they hear the question and my answers. So please share away whenever you feel like it. All right, then. So let's begin. What is mindful-based stress reduction? So I'm sure we can relate to this little cartoon on the screen now. Do we have a mind full, or are we being mindful? And this is a really good depiction of the difference here. Two very similar words with completely different meanings. I think most of us, most of the time, will be walking around with a mind full of stuff. The past, the future, worries, joyous memories, but still constantly just having a chattering mind that is never at peace, just this incessant inner voice that does not stop talking to us, compared to someone who's practicing mindfulness, who finds peace by simply being present. So before we begin talking about the solution, let's have a look first of really what is stress. So we all deal with stress on a daily basis, and I want to make this clear. What we show to the world is very different to what is going on inside of us. And we're constantly just showing different people, different faces in order for them to perceive us in a certain way. But behind every face is a story, and I can guarantee you that everybody's story contains some stress. It's an inevitable aspect of the human experience. And if we didn't have stress, and if we were in perfect alignment and balance, then we would be enlightened, wouldn't we? So being human in itself means we must deal with stress in some way. And for those of us who, deal with stress, we know it's not just a feeling or a mental state. It really seeps into every aspect of our life. And some simple thing that happens in work that causes us stress or anxiety almost instantly goes into our enjoyment of the day, in how we speak to our friends, in how we speak to our families, in how we interact with the world around us for the rest of the day. So stress is definitely much more than just a state of mind. Stress can cause physical symptoms, which again is something perhaps we didn't realize, because we assume stress is just us being unreasonable, or we're just not coping that day or with that situation. That's quite far away from the truth. When we're in a state of stress, our physical body reacts. And physical symptoms of stress can include low energy, headaches, an upset stomach, feeling nauseous. We can get real aches and pains and tense muscles, especially in the mornings when we wake up or by the end of the day. We can start feeling our chest tighten and feel our heart beat faster. We lose sleep, sometimes going into a state of complete insomnia, not sleeping for days or weeks at an end. We catch viruses like flus and colds, and we get infections. And we lose also sometimes our libido. So relationships start to suffer as well. This is not to do with you. This is to do with just a response that you're having to stress. Then, of course, the mental and emotional symptoms. Now, these are the ones that are really difficult for us to cope with sometimes. When we're under a state of stress, we most definitely start to lack concentration because our mind is just racing. We're not focusing on the task in hand, but we just have everything we need to do and complete in our mind at the same time. This goes way beyond multitasking. This is not achieving anything, but just having racing thoughts about what we need to do. We have difficulty learning new information, again, usually because we're not focused, because our mind is unable to concentrate. As a result, we can get forgetful, find that we are completely disorganized. Even for people who, are perfectionists, when they get stressed, they become disorganized. And some of us can even get confused. So it can have a real effect on not only our work, but our living day-to-day life as well. Decisions become difficult to make because rather than, again, having a focus and actually thinking about the steps needed to make a decision, we just feel overwhelmed by having to make a decision at all. The feeling of being overloaded, whether that's task overloaded or emotionally overloaded, is a very common trait of a stress symptom. And as I said, feeling overwhelmed is also there. We can also start to feel lonely and on our own and having to deal with everything by ourselves. We feel unsupported sometimes, and that has a direct effect on our self-worth. And when we start going into those deeper levels of questioning our self-worth, that can really hit our self-esteem and our confidence in all areas of our life. Often people who have stress will just be super emotional and have frequent crying spells, crying for no reason, and even crying when someone is nice to them because they just feel so overwhelmed with emotions. They can also have a disinterest in their appearance, so they stop caring about what they look like. Someone who used to, turn up very smartly turned out, the girls, the manis, the pedis, the hair's nicely done. All of a sudden, we just stop caring, and punctuality goes out of the window. So we're late for things, we forget meetings, all of these things start to happen. We can also start to pick up nervous habits. We can start fidgeting, feet tapping. A common one is that shaking of the knee. And then we get very frustrated, we get irritable, and we get a little bit edgy, and our responses, we don't even recognize ourselves anymore. We respond to people in a way that afterwards we're like, where did that come from? Like, I didn't realize I had that in me, or I didn't even recognize myself in that situation. Remember, it's not you, it's just a response you're having to the stress you're feeling. And we can often overreact. So all of these are mental and emotional symptoms of stress. So those combined with the physical, I'm sure everybody here in this webinar are able to identify with some, if not a lot, of these symptoms. So now we understand a little bit more about how stress is affecting us, much more than just, a state of mind. We can look at dealing with stress. First, we need to accept that stress is inevitable. It's always going to be there. So just being aware of that and accepting that is already your first step. And instead of just getting overwhelmed with the stress, we succumb into the negative symptoms. We overcome it. So stress may be inevitable, but succumbing to the negative symptoms of stress is definitely not inevitable. And hopefully I can open up your mind this evening to a few ways that you may be able to find yourself better able to deal with stress. For me, I actually treat stress as an opportunity, not a threat. For me, it's a challenge, and we can meet that head on, because I know that stress actually contributes to our personal growth and development. And when we can accept stress without attaching a story to it, without going on a journey with it, with just recognizing it and dealing with it in some of the ways I'm going to teach you tonight, you actually will grow as a person, and you will be less susceptible to the stress in your life. So now here's the exciting bit. Let's have a look about how mindful-based stress reduction has helped. A little bit about the history first. So mindful-based stress reduction is an actual program. And it was developed in the 1970s by a man called John Kabat-Zinn. Now, he was at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and he's working at the stress relief clinic there. So he's within the hospital, and what he's seeing are all these patients that are in hospital are sick for a very long time. Even when the physical or even the emotional, mental, psychological issues have cleared up, they still remain sick. And so he designed this program to treat hospital patients who are struggling physically, mentally, and emotionally. And he found a method which has been hugely successful, which uses a flexible approach of mindful practices. None of these practices that he's brought together are really of his own making. Just with his knowledge and with his experience and with his research, he brought together a program, and he allowed every individual to go at their own pace in a manner that best suits them. And this, I believe, is where the success comes in. This program is not rigid, although following an actual program is 8 weeks in total, where you have around 2 hours a week of interactions, and then the rest of the week you're expected to do at least 30 minutes of practice yourself every day. But you do it in a way and using the techniques that suit you on that day in question. And that's where success will come, because what we do know is that when we fail at something, it's very easy to not practice the next day. We make excuses, we give reasons in our mind until it's been 2 or 3 or 4 days and we haven't practiced at all. So let's go through what MBSR is about. So there's 5 principles connected to MBSR. It's all about making it an experience rather than a chore. So actually enjoying the practices that you'll be doing every day. It does require some discipline on your own part, and you do require effort, and you need to get motivated. And this is why in the true courses of MBSR, you meet once a week in order to share experiences and also get more information. It does require you to make a time commitment to practice mindful techniques every day. And it's all about learning new information. So it's not just therapeutic, it's actually teaching you new skills that you can adopt throughout your day, even once you've mastered the MBSR techniques. And the most important thing is we focus on what is right with us, not what is wrong with us. So in order to do MBSR, yes, a course is fantastic, but you can also practice all of these things on your own, so long as you have the dedication and you make yourself do it every day. Now, one thing I know for sure about creating a habit It does take approximately 21 days, but also if you attach an action to an existing habit, you are much more likely to continue with that new habit. So for those of you looking to start putting a few more mindful practices into your daily routine, I do recommend that you do it with an existing habit. So for example, when you wake up and your alarm clock goes off, do it straight away then, or straight after you brush your teeth, which you do every morning, or straight before you go to bed at night. Anything that you do at a certain time every day, put in mindful practices at that point, and then you'll find that you are much more likely to succeed in continuing with the practices. So MBSR uses 4 types of mindful practice, and they use these all together concurrently. So you can choose which ones you want to do, but it is recommended that you do a mixture of all of them. And the practices that MBSR uses are meditation, body awareness, gentle yoga, and self-reflection. So let's have a look at some of the benefits of MBSR. There has been so much research into the benefits of MBSR and meditation and mindful practices on their own. And here are some of the things that have been proven to work. So it helps alleviate symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks, asthma, chronic illness, depression, eating disorders, fatigue, fibromyalgia, gastrointestinal distress, grief, headaches, heart disease, high blood pressure, pain, post-traumatic stress disorder, skin disorders, sleep problems, and stress with work, family, and finances. So we know that people who regularly practice mindfulness, meditation, or MBSR do benefit in these ways. So let's have a look at some mindful techniques. I'm sure after seeing how much stress you really are suffering when you see the physical and emotional symptoms, and then seeing the benefits that mindful and MBSR can give you, let's have a look at how you actually achieve it. So one of the first things you can do for mindfulness is called focus mindfulness. And this is where we actually look inwardly, so much more like a meditation practice, which is inward. And you observe what's happening in your mind. Now, this does not mean you need to sit for an hour cross-legged chanting Om. It simply means you have to bring yourself away from the constant mind chatter and inward into yourself and follow something inwardly. So this could absolutely be chanting a mantra, but equally, it can be observing your breath. Now, the breath is with us all the time. And so it's a great practice because you can do it at any point, even at work or sat on the metro, anytime at all, you can start connecting to your breath. And when we do inward practices and focused mindfulness, we're actually watching and observing what's happening in our mind with an interest. So we're aware of it and we're interested in it, but we don't go on a journey following it. Now, we all know what it's like if we go on YouTube, we click on one video, next thing you know, it's an hour later and we're looking at cats dancing in socks or something. It's just crazy how we just take ourselves on these journeys on YouTube. Well, the same thing happens in our mind. When we attach to one thought, we will usually add another thought, another thought, another thought. And before we know it, we're in a completely different place, not related at all to the original thought. So when we focus inwardly, it's about being, I'm thinking about that person. Interesting. But we don't judge it. We release control and resistance to it. And we just allow that thought to be there. And what we find is that thoughts will then just dissipate and go. It's only when we add another layer on it that it becomes a problem. So focused mindfulness is looking inwards. Conversely, awareness mindfulness emphasizes on the external. So we're still bringing ourselves more into the present. We're still coming into the moment, but rather than looking inwardly, we're actually going to find something from an outward perspective and focus all our energy on that. Examples of this could be moon gazing, fire gazing. It could be just paying attention to all the colors of your stapler on your desk and looking at its form and shape. It's just being aware with what's going on. It could be listening fully and consciously and mindfully to someone who is speaking to you, hearing every word without thinking what we're going to say next. So it's all about coming outside of yourself, but focusing all your awareness and attention on that outside thing. So we can look at thoughts and feelings without attaching judgment as well. So our mental activity can also be an awareness mindfulness by seeing our reactions and actions and how that externalizes. And whenever we're doing any awareness mindfulness practice, we actually pretend we're the observer and we view our mental activity, our reactions to whatever is going on. So whether we're doing a gazing meditation or just observing something or listening, and we act as though we're someone else, just an external observer, watching, listening, and being present. So there's 7 foundational attitudes of mindful-based stress reduction, and we need all of these attitudes in order to be fully successful in reducing stress with this method. So let me go through each of them with you. So the first one is to be non-judgmental. So it's intentionally assuming the mind frame of an impartial witness, just as I described previously. And I love this quote by Walt Whitman: "Be curious, not judgmental." Once we add curiosity and interest into what's going on with us in our mind, we actually stop attaching any kind of more emotions to it because it's just interesting. So non-judgment of your mind, what's in there, is vital for success, but it takes practice. But once you start to succeed, the benefits are phenomenal. The second then is patience. So patience is definitely something I need to cultivate more of. I'm definitely a get up and go girl, and so patience is something that I work on all the time. But when we have patience in our life, it actually is a form of wisdom that allows us to give ourselves the space and time to actually have experiences. And this quote: "Have patience with all things, but first of all with yourself," because patience in yourself cultivates your patience with others. And soon those people that would trigger you or wind you up, they just don't anymore. So it has a fantastic result when you can cultivate patience. The next principle is having a beginner's mind. So even if you've been meditating for 10 years, come to every mindful practice as though it's the first time. Because a mindset that is willing to experience everything as if it's the first time is one that will be a happy mind. Remember some of the first experiences that you've had, some of these happy experiences. When you do things for a first time, it's amazing. And so we want to cultivate that reaction to everything we're doing. So even if you're repeating practices, doing the same meditation over and over, be excited to see what will come of it, what differences there are within you and with whatever you're working with. And as C.S. Lewis, the famous author, said, miracles are for beginners. So I promise you, if you come as a newborn child into everything you do, you will see everything as a miracle and stress will start dissipating. The next principle is trust. So having trust in yourself, honoring your own knowledge and wisdom is key to success and is vital when you're practicing a more mindful life. Because when you trust that you can do this, when you trust that you know what's best for you, you will be more likely to continue the practice. When you trust in the outcome of this experience, by doing these daily practices and by being in the moment, every day your trust will increase. And just like patience, once you start to trust yourself, you will start having a much better ability to know who and what situations to trust in your life, because you'll be connected to that vibration within you. So if you're going to trust one person, let it be yourself. Everything starts with you. We never look outside for people to create something in us. We create everything within ourselves and trust that that's what's happening, and watch the magic start to also happen. The next principle is called non-striving. And what this is talking about is having an attitude beyond our usual need for an outcome. Nearly everything we do in life is to reach somewhere. There's that saying, isn't there? Enjoy the journey. And that's so important, but something that we miss all the time, because we're always looking for the outcome, always the end point, never just allowing ourselves to simply be and enjoying the journey, enjoying the moments. So a non-striving attitude means just allowing things to be as they are without trying to manipulate or control the outcome of the present moment. And Jon Kabat-Zinn, the man himself, said, non-striving is trying less and being more. And that's exactly the benefit you get when you stop needing to control. Acceptance. So acceptance is key. Just seeing things as they really are in each moment, rather than as you would like them to be, and just taking things as they come. We alleviate so much worry and stress and anxiety by just accepting things. Now, this does not mean to say you become a doormat where people walk over you. It's just viewing things, saying, all right, this unpleasant situation is here right now. I'm going to deal with it. I know I can deal with it. There's always an outcome, even if I don't know what that outcome is, even if it's not the outcome I would entirely like. Everything will have an outcome. Nothing is permanent. So let me just see where we are with this, sit with it, and see what I can do with it. Acceptance doesn't allow you to have those stress responses. So I love actually the Dalai Lama's phrase. He's got one incredible quote, and it says, if you, what is it? I can't remember. Something of like, if you can do something about it, why worry? If you can't do something about it, what's the point of worrying? And I absolutely love that. It makes me laugh so much, because it's so simple and yet so true. But I've put up a quote because I'm a surfer. So I've put up the quote here, and it says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I absolutely love that, because when we just accept the inevitable, that things are happening, but we can surf them, we are always going to come on that back of that wave. We may wipe out once or twice, but so what? We'll always come back on our boards. So accepting things as they are is key for being successful in mindful practice. And then letting go. I know, easier said than done. But when we practice letting go on the small stuff, it actually then can soon turn into being able to let go on the bigger stuff. Letting go essentially means releasing intentionally control and allowing ourselves to fully participate in our experience. I mean, how many times do we argue with a friend or a colleague or a partner about something so trivial, like, what lunch to eat, where to go for lunch? And it's so trivial. And rather than just letting it go, we have to be right. We have to take control. So start on the small stuff. If you don't need to make the decision, if you don't need to be involved, if it's not your decision to make, if it's not your project, even though you may know better, even though you've had experience and you know what to do, if it's not yours, Why are you taking on the stress and worry of it? Allow people to learn their own lessons in their own ways, and just don't get involved in stress that doesn't belong to you. So letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. So I hope that these principles will help you, even if you just resonate with one or two of them right now, but hopefully they'll help you start cultivating a much more stress-reduced reaction in you when you're confronted by people and situations in life. So I thought I'd talk you through just 4 MBSR exercises that you can start practicing instantly. And the first one is called breath sensing. This is so simple. We know the breath is there for us all the time. And we've also probably heard about pranayama, which is breath work in yoga. We've heard about the therapy called breath work. Breath is absolutely phenomenal tool for us to reconnect with ourselves. It helps us heal, it helps us release, it helps us energize. And breath sensing is all about becoming aware of your breath. We don't control the breath. We don't try and breathe more deeply in the beginning stages. We just see, where is my breath? So you just start inhaling and exhaling as you would normally and naturally, maybe closing your eyes so you can bring more of a sense in. And then start noticing your breath. Feel the warm air as it enters your body, the cool air as it leaves your body. Feel which parts of your body rise and fall on the inhales and exhales. Perhaps listening to the sounds and how different they are on the inhale and exhale. But just keeping your breath normal and natural as you inhale and exhale. And what we know about breath sensing is that it connects you to the present moment. When you bring your focus onto the breath, it's both an inward and an outward mindful practice. And so everything around us starts to lose significance as everything comes to the breath. We also know that when we pay attention to our breath, it can expand our awareness and it reduces stress levels. And using the breath also stops our stress reactions. Now, we all have a parent or grandparent who said, just take a deep breath. They knew what they were talking about. Taking a breath into your body will cultivate a feeling of calmness come over you. It will start to deactivate the nervous system, activate the parasympathetic system, and therefore reduce stress and anxiety reactions. We also know the breath lowers the heart rate and lowers blood pressure. And also research has shown that conscious breathing and breath sensing actually manages physical pain. So that's one practice I recommend you start immediately. The next takes a bit longer. The next is called the body scan, and this is used a lot in MBSR. You find yourself in a comfortable position, and then with your mind, with your focus, you just bring everything into one body part to another. You pay attention to the physical sensations from the feet all the way up to the head. Now, this isn't like final relaxation in yoga or yoga nidra. This is all about just feeling, what do my toes feel like? And using your senses. Do they feel hot or cold? Am I feeling any sensations, any tingling? Are they relaxed? Are they tense? And then you bring that up through the feet, the shins, the knees, the thighs, the pelvis, the hips, the tummy, all the way up your back, your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, into the throat, your face, all those tiny muscles on the face. Have a check-in with those, your forehead, your scalp. You do the body scan, just recognizing, where is my body at this moment? And what you'll find is when your attention is drawn to that particular part of the body, you will start releasing tension there. Physical tension will start to release the minute you bring attention and pay attention to what your body is doing. This also has a great benefit of expanding the mind-body awareness. Now, mind-body awareness is really, really important. We are so disconnected from our physical body. We don't read the warning signs when we're getting stressed or even when we're getting sick. So a body scan is a great way to reconnect the information that your physical body sends to your mind, to your brain, in order for you to catch symptoms before they become problems and disease. We also know that the body scan can strengthen focus and concentration. And as with all mindful practices, we know that it creates more creases in the lobes of the brain. And once we have more creases there, we actually are able to concentrate and focus more. Again, the body scan has been proven to help manage pain, as well as reducing stress and anxiety and putting you into a state of total relaxation. So it's a great one to do before you go to bed. The third practice I'd like to just go through with you is mindful meditation. Now, meditation sometimes feels unattainable. Even with all the apps we have on our phones, it's really, really tough to sit there and meditate. But that's for everyone. And sometimes me, with 25 years of practice, I can get 1 minute of meditation. Sometimes an hour's gone and I have no idea where I've been. The time has just flown. So it just takes practice. But mindful meditation doesn't need to be a seated practice. You can do it at any time, at any place. It's all about just bringing yourself inside of yourself and see if you can calm down the incessant chatter of our mind. And what we know from meditation is that it facilitates awareness of thought patterns and emotions and how we experience stress. Now, this is super important because the key to healing in any modality is awareness of the symptoms. So we don't just treat, the signs. We actually look at the root cause and we treat the symptoms and the root cause there. Once we're aware of these patterns and processes and repetitions in our mind, then and only then can we change them. We also know that mindful meditation cultivates patience and acceptance, two of the things that we need to follow the Mbsr course. And it's also been proven to reduce stress and anxiety. So whether you are coming to group classes at Illuminations, you're following meditations online or on an app, don't stop. And even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of following a meditation, a visualization, a guided meditation, mantras, chanting, whatever form you enjoy, this is enough to already start to help you cope with stress and anxiety. And then the fourth method that comes into Mbsr that I'd like to talk about is mindful yoga. You do not have to be super flexible to practice yoga. Yoga is not in any way about a beautiful body. In fact, yoga was originally passed down in order to keep the body flexible enough, the spine strong enough for us to sit in meditation for longer. That's the origins of yoga. And the physical practice of yoga was a way to get that strength and flexibility. So when we practice yoga, there are so many different varieties. One of my favorite yogas for mindfulness is called Yin Yoga. This is where we hold our body in different positions and shapes for longer, but we use props like pillows and cushions and blankets in order to let the body expand naturally without using any muscular tension. It basically opens up your body. And what I love about mindful yoga is the way that we're not looking at how well am I doing this pose? Am I doing it right? Quite the opposite. What we're actually doing here is feeling our body. Where does this pose kind of feel difficult on my body? Where am I getting challenged on my body? Where do I feel tense? Which muscles are stretching here? Where am I feeling any muscular tension? And you actually bring all your awareness into the senses you are physically feeling. And when you feel yourself expand as the tension releases, as you feel your breath, as you breathe deeply into a difficult posture, and then as you exhale, feel the expansion, that's where all your attention is. And many studies have shown that regular practice of yoga, but in particular mindful yoga, does reduce stress. And more so, it enhances our ability to cope. It gives us an ability to adapt and to change. And we know that it increases happiness. One of the most magical things about yoga for me is that in a more physical class, we can work ourselves really, really hard. We're sweating, our muscles are shaking, but we leave the class bouncing out all happy. That's a very different story from when I do a spin class where I'm practically falling out of the room because I'm so exhausted. So yoga is very, very special. You can work your body and yet still create happiness and feel great. And we also know that yoga helps improve sleep and helps with insomnia. So those modalities mixed together are the system of Mbsr. And the studies have shown that mixing those four together will absolutely help you deal with stress on a day-to-day basis, but you need to practice them. So as Jon Kabat-Zinn himself said, mindfulness is about being fully awake in our lives. It's about perceiving the exquisite vividness of each moment. We also gain immediate access to our own powerful inner resources for insight, transformation, and healing. How beautifully said. And in a nutshell, it's simply paying attention to the present moment experience with an open curiosity and a willingness to be with what is. And as this quote says, wherever you are, just be all there. So there it is. That's Mbsr mindfulness in a nutshell for you. At some point in the future, I am looking to run the full 8-week program, which involves a 2-hour weekly session, either online or in-site, and then a regular weekly self-practice. And at the end of the 8 weeks, research has shown that anxiety and stress levels are completely diminished into manageable amounts, and your coping strategies are improved hugely. So it's not available yet, but it is very much something that I'm working on, and I will make the announcement when we're able to offer the full program. But until then, just know that this system is available for you at any time, just through your own practices every day. So does anyone have any questions about Mbsr? Yeah, so if you want to ask a question, please feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hello, good evening, ma'am. Can you hear me, please? Hello.
Hello, I can't hear you.
Good evening.
Oh, hi there, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Could you hear me, please? Yeah.
Yes,
you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for the lovely presentation. It's a really good, very, very, very informative. And my question will be, when you said during your presentation that stress, that certain amount of stress is quite good for your health, for your improvement. You can improve if you have the stress. Only the people that don't have stress, those are in the graves. And the other thing, yeah, but other thing which create the stress in the body, because the body condition also, it plays a very important role. If my lifestyle is not up to the mark, then I have a lot of blockages, a lot of things in my body. So yes. What will be my first step to do to start these things, or first you start on your body, the way you said the yoga, which will make your body flexible, right?
Yes. Yes.
That step is first, or Just wanted to,
yes, so absolutely. So it's really interesting. The whole concept of MBSR is to do what you need in the moment. So any of those 4 techniques can be used in any amount of time in any order. So if you're feeling that your physical body is suffering, absolutely doing a Yin Yoga practice, which is a very gentle style of yoga, or a classic Hatha yoga, which is a little bit more active, but again, it's more about flexibility and stretch rather than pure strength, like power yoga, then that will absolutely give you a lot of different things. You will start improving your physical health instantly, but you will also become more mindful, because for sure some of the positions we put you in yoga class are quite complex. And so all our attention goes there. And of course, in yoga, we work with the breath. So for you, if you're looking, if for you, your priority right now is the physical, because you're just not feeling well, physically, then yoga would be a great start for you, but a gentle one.
That's right. Yeah, because sorry, again, one question, considering the yoga, Ashtanga yoga, there are 8 steps of to achieve the final things are there. In that one particularly, the pranayama comes on the 4th place, and yoga comes on the 3rd place, then it's asanas.
Yes.
So it's the correct way of doing those things, because the meditation is the 5th steps in the Ashtanga yoga.
So basically, when we look at the processes of yoga, because what we're doing is actually coming through the energy field. So physical is an earlier step than the emotional and the mental, because our subtle energy, obviously the physical is the thing that's here with us now in this 3rd dimension. But when we move out then more into the higher depths of our consciousness, we're working more on the mental, emotional, astral and causal energy that makes up our energy field. And that's what we're hitting when we go into yoga, into meditation. So the reason why the steps are in that way, the 8 limbs are that way, is because we need to get the physical in line first before we start hitting the meditation, which is effectively connecting our higher consciousness with the divine consciousness. So the 2 modalities work well together, but we can't really compare them as a step-by-step routine, because yoga is all about enlightenment at the end of the day, whereas MBSR is it was designed by a doctor to help patients. So, but I also agree, I think it's a really good point to work on your physical first. It's the first layer of us, and then start working on the other stuff. But one thing to know about, when we look good, we feel good, right? All of us. And so I think it's a really good point. Thanks for asking. So yeah,
thank you very much.
Starting point to be yoga. Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, great questions. Any other questions coming in?
Yes, I have a question. Hi. Sometimes we are very emotionally overwhelmed that we cannot go to a meditative state. So what do you suggest for when this happens?
Yeah, you know what, meditation is that elusive carrot that we keep grabbing for. And remember, when all the methods of meditation were handed down thousands of years ago, there were no distractions. People didn't have the kinds of jobs and lives that we have today. So it is really, really hard for all of us, including me as a meditation teacher, trainer, to get into meditative states in the wrong situations. So what I recommend for people is to use an outside focus and don't set a long time. So something as simple as having a candle and just staring at that flame on the candle for 3 minutes is enough for you to be present for 3 minutes. Now, once we start with the smaller amounts of time, it does become easier and easier to extend those. Another great meditation is visualizations or guided meditations or hypnosis meditations, which you can, find in group classes or even online. And those require you to follow along with your mind's eye. So our thinking mind is actually having to follow along with the instructions in order to get the visualizations or the outcome of the meditation. And so that, again, doesn't require us to be nothing. It allows us to focus on something and therefore stop the mind chatter. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, is just stop this incessant chatter and criticism that is just regurgitating. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, we have around 60,000 thoughts a day. But of those, 95% are repetitive. In a whole day, we only have 5% original thoughts. How tragic is that? So
it is tragic.
This is where, mindfulness practice comes in. If we can take ourselves away for 5, 10, 15 minutes, or even an hour from these repetitive thoughts, we become happier, because we know the repetitive thoughts are from the past, they're from the future, they are all based in worry. And so, any kind of meditation is going to help with that. But definitely for me, if I'm not in the mood, if it's not the right place, if it's not the right time to do a internal meditation where I'm trying to clear my mind so I come into the space, then I will usually turn to a guided meditation so that I've got a focus that I can follow and I know what the outcome is. And then that really, really helps me. So just have a look at different ways of meditating, and then hopefully the more you practice, the longer you'll be able to sustain that being present.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Cool, we got some great questions coming. Does anyone else have any questions in the last minutes? All righty, well, oh yeah, hey, please speak.
Hi.
Hi there.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, sometimes you're just lost and, not happy. In that case, what do you do? If I do meditation, I become more calm,
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a common syndrome these days for us to feel lost, not know our life purpose, feel isolated, feel unhappy. Some of it is obviously to do with COVID and the restrictions that put on us, but it's more than that. It's our life. We live in very kind of isolated lives here, and it becomes very hard. So it can be difficult to motivate yourself to meditate when you're feeling kind of a little bit unhappy or disconnected. But what we do know is the outcome is always connection to your higher self, and that's what brings a sense of belonging. So it's about almost faking it till you make it to some extent, just trusting in the process of being present, being mindful and meditating. And that way, eventually you're going to get a sensation. You'll probably reach that theta state of the mind where you've been sitting in meditation for what feels like 2 minutes, but when you open your eyes, you'll see it's 10 minutes. And then that'll give you a sense of, wow, I did it. Oh, this is great. I can do it. So you need to just push and motivate yourself to get to the point where you start to see the benefits. It may be something you feel energy. Often in meditations, I'll start feeling my chakras go, and that is enough for me to stay there because it's such a nice feeling. So, I do believe in faking it till you make it. It's a neurolinguistic technique. It's in that type of therapy and NLP, and it works. So it's about just keep doing, and eventually you're going to feel something that will make you smile and motivate you to carry on. But I would recommend group classes or do courses. One thing that's really interesting is that in the groups, because we're creating energy with meditation, and what I love about meditation is that it brings us into the moment, and mindfulness practices. The present moment is the only truth we know, because the past is just a memory which we haven't properly remembered because we only remember certain bits of it. The future, of course, is a mystery and a fantasy that hasn't happened, so we're just making up stories about it. The only truth we actually know is this very moment in time, this exact thing that is happening right now. And what we know about the vibration of truth is that it has a very high frequency. So once we put ourselves into the present moment, we actually raise our personal frequency, our personal vibration. And then we start attracting the same vibration from external things, people, situations. This was all talked about in the law of attraction, but it goes much deeper than that. This is a spiritual philosophy and a physics law called the law of resonance. So just by being in the present moment will raise your vibration. The minute you stay in a higher vibrational place, higher vibrational people and situations will start being attracted to you, and you'll start seeing small little miracles, little synchronicities, things as simple as the traffic lights always green, the lift doors always opening when you press the button. It will be small stuff to begin with. But once you see the small stuff, you can keep your higher vibration because now you're trusting and you're seeing it. And then the bigger stuff starts to flow to you.
Okay.
Yeah. But
thank you so much.
You know, it's all about starting somewhere and just doing it, even if you don't feel like it, and trusting in the process. But join a group meditation class or a course or something, because this is where you like-minded people who talk the same language, who are going through the same things. And
so when do you have these group classes?
So I've put up on the screen my upcoming events, but I do around 2 group meditations a month at Illuminations. On the 24th, I've got a Vipassana meditation, which is beautiful. It's a bit of body sensing, a bit of breath work, a little bit of philosophy. It's an hour. And then I have a new moon meditation on the 6th of September. And I'm going to have a guided visualization on the 14th of September. And then I have various holistic courses on the screen as well throughout that. So it's definitely worth coming in a group, because the energy is amazing. It's just circular, and it's just empowering, and you don't feel alone anymore. And you know you're not the only one struggling with meditation as well. Amazing. So thank you
so much for your answer. Thanks.
Thanks for these amazing questions. Does anyone else have anything to add or ask?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I think this meditation absolutely is the way to go, because absence of meditation, in my opinion, I've seen a lot of people adopting to destructive behaviors, like, you know, because they get that, how do I say, get away from the mind, the negative thoughts through either alcohol or drugs or getting into any abusive. So I think if in the absence of meditation, but the issue is that how do you convince? I mean, I know that your presentation is absolutely brilliant, but you know, someone has to really realize that what they're getting into is really very destructive. So they need to really get into some sort of exposure or interaction with people like yourselves or the groups, or, you know, the help out there. Otherwise just drifts to a very, very negative and you know, destructive situation. So that's just a comment.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Absolutely. You know, and the most important thing to remember is that we only heal ourselves. Nobody heals us. And so the person has to be ready and willing to change. And sometimes that comes through a little bit of an intervention through friends and family. But what I love about any mindful practice is that they're really easy to start and they don't require much effort or much time. But what a great point. Thank you for sharing that. So true. Perfect. All right, guys. So we're coming to the end now, unless there's anyone who has another thing to ask. Otherwise, I will be saying good night. So you can see all my things going on at Illuminations JLT. I've got a very full schedule. And of course, during the week, I'm available for consultations and sessions. I do offer free 30-minute consultations, either online or on site. So if you do want to have a bit of a chat or there's stuff going on in your life, please take advantage of that free consultation, so I can help you on your journey to wellness and wholeness, and most importantly, happiness, right? So guys, thanks again for joining. I really appreciate it. And I will see you on my next webinar, hopefully, if not before. All right, take care then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.